Right, so yeah, I'm Niklas, the CEO and co-founder of Advrty. I'm going to give a talk today about why developers will love VR advertising. So before I go on, just a quick one on myself. I've spent my whole career in mobile gaming and mobile ad tech, most significantly with Glue Mobile for 5 years, and Namco Bandai and ad tech with Startup, for example. Advrty is a Swedish-based startup developing a native advertising platform for games and applications in VR, but also AR and mixed reality. So, just curious to understand here in the big audience, how many of you honestly thinks that ads in mobile games suck? Raise your hand. All right, so. Good, good. I was hoping 90% of you would have put your hands up in the air. That's kind of a normal response you get when you talk to specifically the developer communities. They don't love ads. Ads suck. Ads destroy the quality of the games, etc., etc. But funnily, when you start talking to them even more, it turns out around 8 of 10 of them do implement some kind of an ad solution into their product, especially for mobile games. And I understand why they think like this, because ads in mobile on that small screen is intrusive. All of a sudden, an ugly banner pops up, and it's usually in very strange colors, etc. And it's often also interruptive. It takes over the experience as an interstitial banner. Or it's an incentivized way to force the user to look at a video for 30 seconds, and then you get rewarded with some in-game currencies. And looking at digital advertising, mobile is taking over completely. Mobile went bigger than display advertisement on desktop around 2014, and it's on its way to be even bigger than television in the year 2020. And talking about intrusiveness, ads in mobile have to be that way, because the window of freedom, the playroom, is 5 to 15 inch, depending on if it's a mobile screen or if it's a computer, a laptop screen. So in order to be seen, you have to throw the ad in the face of the user, basically. And in the beginning of the mobile era, we saw brand advertising, but it doesn't really exist today. And the reason for this is that no one thought that apps would take over in the way they did. Looking at e-marketers' data on in-app usage versus mobile web usage, it's 6 times more on in-app, so to speak. And in-app advertising is driven by CPI. It's driven by the fact of getting an advertiser to pay to get their app installed. And brand advertisers aren't necessarily interested in that. They want brand awareness. They want to pay for views. They want to pay for eyeballs. They want to pay to create something around the brand. So to summarize, digital advertising in 2017, completely dominated by mobile. Most of the action happens in-app. There's a limited playroom because of the screen size, and advertising has to be intrusive to be seen. So let me rewind the tape a little bit and go back to what happened before we had digital advertising. So this is kind of the start of everything. Coca-Cola doing an ad in the local newspaper somewhere in the US. Not that many colors, not that fun. It's a physical campaign, completely offline. Static, obviously, being a print ad. No way to control the targeting. You know that you're in that newspaper, in that region, etc. But there's obviously no campaign data here. Who knows who actually read that paper? Who knows that you're in page 3 and you actually see the ad? Then we have out-of-home advertising, which is immersive advertising, which is really good. It creates a good experience. But again, it's physical and it's offline. And it's static. It's a print ad again. The way of doing it is quite complex getting a big billboard up there. It's not really scalable either. And again, there are no campaign data. As an advertiser, you buy on estimated eyeballs, and it's pretty expensive as well. And then TV advertising, and all of a sudden we have something that is dynamic, something that is interactive, the moving image, so to speak. But again, it's offline, difficult to target. You're buying per households. You don't know what that household is actually doing. The TV could be on, but the family could have a dinner in the kitchen, and advertisers are paying for that. And you can't measure anything. So what about if we make the best of two worlds? We take the immersiveness of out of home, and we take the fact that we can measure everything in digital advertising. And we do this in virtual reality, for example. Then we could have something that looks like this. A fully immersive experience where you have billboards, you have posters, you have product placements, you can even have three-dimensional objects in there. You can have really advanced three-dimensional animations being an ad unit, and so on and so on. So virtual reality advertising, our way, is fully immersive. It's non-intrusive, it's native, it's seamlessly integrated into 3D worlds of games and apps. We can measure everything. We're inside the camera, the virtual camera, so we know where you're standing, we know for how long you're looking at things. We know for the fact how many times to go back and watch an ad over and over again, which is something advertisers would dream of getting, that kind of data. And the platform is interactive. It's images, it's movies, videos, and everything. And the approach is programmatic. So forget that out-of-home stuff where you have to put something up for 2 hours. It's instantly and dynamically ingested in real time into the experience of the user. So where are we now with virtual reality overall? I would say that the birth of VR happened in June of 2014 when Google announced Cardboard. Last year we saw consumer gadgets for mobile, for desktop, and for console. And I would say that we are right now somewhere in between the early stage and pre-mass market. We're seeing new companies coming in with new kinds of hardware. All the baby sickness are slowly getting rid of. Consumer prices are going down. But this will still take a little bit more time. And we do believe that somewhere in 2019, virtual reality has an opportunity to start growing and have the start of its mass market potential, so to speak. So why start now with virtual reality advertising and not wait until this magical moment in 2019? I would say the answer is Angry Birds. Rovio was struggling in 2009. And instead of doing their 50-second game for feature phone and Java, they did Angry Birds with a focus on the new platform, the iOS, the App Store. So they went to become an early mover on the new platform. And yes, they didn't launch the game as a free game initially, but quite quickly they turned it into a free product and maximized their reach that way. And we all know what's happened. 3-4 billion downloads, brand awareness that made the company a lot of money in the following years. And I do believe that we're in VR at the same kind of moment now for the first time since 2009, where we are waiting for that next Rovio, for that next Angry Birds in VR, that killer content. And what we want to do is to help studios to, at least in some shape, release stuff as a free product in VR. So what is it in for me as a developer to do VR advertising in 2017? We plan to release this as the immersive advertising as a premium service. So we're not tying into any current ad tech solutions where CPMs are, really really on the bottom, less than $1. So we're aiming at eCPMs of 15 to 50 dollars. And again, we want to make it affordable to developers to try and go free as well. So the integration with the Advrty platform is very simple. We're based on Unity. You plug us in Unity, you drop and drag ad units, and we've also created a way to add the context-based targeting in advertising. So in Unity here, you can drag an ad unit. You can choose the ratio of the ad unit. So if you're going to go landscape, portrait, or square. And we have a way also to bend the ad units if you want to be on a non-flat surface, for example. And then we have a couple of meta tags for context. So we, for every ad unit, will know what kind of scenario we're in with that ad unit. So we not only target on content genre or user, but also context. So we understand that maybe we shouldn't do an iPhone 10 ad in a game that is, played in the medieval era, for example. And there's a lot of talk, obviously, about the growth of VR. 1 million PSVRs, 6-7 million Gear VRs, etc., etc. And yeah, it's going a little bit slower than everyone was expecting a year ago. But I'm still insisting on developers to try and go cross-platform. There are over 100 million cardboards out there. Google Play has more than 160 million VR game and app downloads on Google Play. So even though you're creating something really high-end on desktop VR, there should be some way to do a version for mobile and get it out there to create that awareness that you need, because you have such a good opportunity to become the next big thing in VR when it really takes off in maybe 2 years. So if you're interested in advertising with us or monetizing with us, go to advrty.com and sign up there. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a bunch. Thanks a bunch, Niklas. Does anyone have any questions out there?
Oh, hello. Are you able to add any kind of visuals over the top of the ads to integrate it better into a world? So if it's a dystopian world, you could have them slightly faded or cracked, or would that be against what the advertisers would allow?
As long as you're not covering the surface of the ad, you're fine with doing anything around the ad units.
But you couldn't do anything like an overlay, transparent?
Well, not really. If it kind of affects the creative of the ad, that should not obviously be covered.
Awesome. Is there any more out there? Over there.
Hi. At the moment, European consumer protection authorities are particularly concerned about virtual reality and its very immersive content on vulnerable consumers like children. So, do you have any vision on how to explain this kind of virtual reality ads, on how to present them in a way that the consumer protection authorities will not be too concerned about if the people are able to make the distinction on the advert content and actual game content and etc.?
I think the question is very important both for VR and for AR, but in VR it's more of a controlled scenario where we know exactly what the product is about, we know exactly where ad units are placed, and we can control what kind of ads that goes into that product. It becomes more of a question when we're talking about AR, when the world is not virtual anymore, but it's virtual advertisement in a real world scenario. Then there's a lot to learn about how how to do proper advertising in those scenarios. Where can we actually be allowed to place an ad unit? Can we be allowed to place it on a wall, or are we restricted from doing that? It's a big task for everyone, and a long way to go, actually.